allow for the Democratic Party to realize what they're getting wrong to maybe, recalibrate. But when we covered that story, left-wing shows like Majority Report, for instance, said that that's not true. It's completely debunked.
Okay, so and when you listen, and maybe it's just me, let me know in the comments, but just hearing that, does it feel like she's just trying to craft an argument just to throw the Majority Report and Sam Cedar under the bus, just for the hell of it? All right, so when it comes to the Democratic Party and the voters trying to wrap their head around on why the Democratic Party lost and Trump won, it could be a wide variety of things. In my opinion, about 60% of why Trump won was misinformation. Of course, there's a lot of other fragments of what happened or what didn't happen. The Democratic Party, the elite, the liberals, they fucking suck. Okay, nobody wants the lukewarm policies no more. Nobody wants that. Okay, we need something actual, tangible type of policies. And unfortunately, the liberal establishment in the Democratic Party is not cutting it no more. When it comes to messaging, they suck. When it comes to just reaching out to people, was trash. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the blame can be, put to a lot of people. But, there's a big old but right there, okay? Do not shift your policies, your ideology, your beliefs, anything further to the right. That doesn't make any sense. If you feel that when it comes to immigration, of course, we need more border support. We need actual reform when it comes to the asylum seeking process. That's the issue. But if you think just shipping, millions of people back to wherever they came from is going to solve the issue, it is not. If you think that continuing to demonize and dehumanize immigrants, legal or illegal, that's not going to fix the issue. You have to go to the root cause, and in my opinion, is fixing the asylum seeking process. Reform it. Actually do what it needs to take to get that fixed. That simple. When it comes to healthcare, blaming it on illegal immigrants or whatever the case is, that's not a solution. That's what Republicans like to do, is just go ahead and point the fingers at marginalized people. But I'm starting to see, and it's weird, and as we're gonna watch, Charlamagne the God and TYT, it's like they're slowly inching over to the right. Well, this is my right. They're inching over to the right, and I just don't get it. I don't understand. But let's go ahead, take a listen, and let's not get too frustrated, okay?
If, especially following the results of the presidential election, if you have come to terms with and realize that Democrats aren't really interested in having conversations. They're interested in playing the blame game. They're interested in providing cover for the failures of the Democratic Party. That's my take, but I'm curious if you agree with it.
I don't like broad generalizations, even though, we do say the Democratic Party. I think there are a few in there that still want to have honest conversations. I just think that, some of them got to have the balls to stand up and be able to challenge the party, whatever that may be now. I don't even know what the Democratic Party is at this particular.
So just right there, I do like how he was able to separate the fractions in between the Democratic Party, unlike Anna, where once again, you're generalizing in an unproductive way, because there's clearly people in the Democratic Party or who at least are registered Democrats like Bernie Sanders. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's not going to work, because that doesn't lead to a genuine conversation. But once again, I'm glad how Charlamagne was like, hey, let's not do that. But the way that they can get more breathing room is through us, people, the voters. we need to say it loud that we want a Bernie Sanders and AOC, Cory Bush. I mean, there's a whole list of them. We want those individuals at the forefront. No more Nancy Pelosi, no more Chuck Schumers, whatever that other light-skinned clown is. Like, we don't want them no more. They are lukewarm, and the American people are tired of lukewarmness. So once again, like, Charlamagne, you should already know that, but let's continue.
Moment. They don't have any real leadership. They don't have any, real messaging. They don't seem to have a real sense of direction at this point. So now would be as good a time as any to stand up and, challenge what was of the Democratic Party.
Yeah. So that's a great point, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here, which is, one, challenge what we thought was the Democratic Party. Two is potentially rebuild that party into something that makes sense and could win elections and actually represents their voters, right? So look, I'll break it down into the 3 categories, Charlamagne, and then I'm curious, which one you think you're closer to. Nobody has to be in any specific bucket or exclusively in that bucket, but I just want to get your take on it. So one is what we normally call the establishment, right? Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, the people who take tons of corporate donor money. I think, and I'm biasing you a little bit here, but I think they serve the donor class overall. Mainstream media is on their side, etc. Then there's the identitarian left that is a little bit more, you could use whatever terms you like, extreme, radical, max, but hey, look, or identity politics, right? Hey, we need, and have a certain ideology they will not waver from. And then there's a third wing, which is kind of the economically populist wing of Bernie Sanders 2016. So out of those 3, do you think that makes sense as a way of like looking at it? And out of those 3, do you associate with one more than the other?
It'll probably be the economy, because I feel like, there's nothing that moves in this country that isn't rooted in money. Wu-Tang Clan said cash rules everything around me, and it's a fact. I don't care if you're talking about.
So once again, I don't really like the definitions of how he tried to categorize the different fractions within the Democratic Party. A populist is someone who champions the interests and concerns of the ordinary people, often positioning themselves against elite or the establishment whom they view as out of touch or corrupt. So once again, like, that's too general. Like, that could literally be Trump. Like, that's just, if you're being disingenuous, you can, like Trump, like, hear the people and say, hey, I'm here to help you, I'm here to save you, I'm here to do X, Y, and Z, and totally be lying at your ass. Like, that really doesn't mean nothing. But if you are on the camp of Bernie Sanders, which is a democratic socialist, like, do you know what that means? You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead and look that up. And that's what I consider myself. But if you are really eager for democratic socialist policies, good luck explaining that to Republicans, because as soon as they hear the word socialist, they're gonna freak the fuck out. So once again, I don't like the way he framed Bernie Sanders, I guess, like a position in the Democratic Party, because I'm pretty sure Charlamagne wouldn't have just jumped in to that category as easy. But that's just my opinion right there. But let's go ahead and get to the next. Let's see, this is 518. Good old 518. Those are my lucky numbers, actually. It's like I'm joking.
And very interesting. And I feel that they were just kind of left behind by the Democratic Party. And one of the things that would come up over and over again was the immigration issue. And I'm not under the impression at all that these are anti-immigrant individuals, but people living in places like Chicago, for instance, who have seen their resources, which are usually used to nickel and dime the local Black community there, essentially be used for the influx of migrants who came in. Federal government, run by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, just kind of neglected the issue and allowed these municipalities to struggle with the issue on their own. And the thing that frustrates me, Charlamagne, is that if you are someone who identifies as on the left, regardless of where you fall on that left-wing spectrum, if you have the audacity to bring up this very real issue, well, I mean, you know how Sonny Hostin will treat you if you bring it up on The View, right? And I think that's an issue. I think it's a problem. The Democrats seem to not ever want to do a little bit of self-reflection to understand, okay, what can we do better the next time around? Instead, I see them kind of lashing out and blaming everyone else for the loss.
Okay, so once again, that's the kind of shit that annoys me, okay? Once again, if you, and I did this like a year ago when I was kind of diving more deep into just the funds and where my tax money goes here in Colorado. And it's a shit ton of money, okay? And it just confuses me when people say, you know, immigrants are just flooding a city, and then for whatever reason, Democrats want to just take your money that would normally go to you and just give it to them. First off, if they're illegal, they don't got it like that. I'm sorry, you need documentations to even get on food stamps. So just hearing this dumb shit when it comes to illegal immigrants are just sucking up all the money out of a city. No, one. Two, a city should be able to do more than just one thing. Take care of its citizens, and like they're about to get into, if your area is a sanctuary city, it doesn't require funding for that. So when people keep talking about these sanctuary cities, that's not sucking resources. That's not sucking money from your taxpayer taxes that you pay into sanctuary cities. Like, understand how something works, then you can know if it needs to be reformed or not. The police budget here in Colorado is fucking ridiculous. Maybe, just maybe, if they stop buying tanks and all these AR-15s, maybe we could use some of that money, reallocate some of that money to something that's in need. But no, let's not think about that. Let's not point that out and just blame it on the immigrants. Once again, Democrats don't need to inch over to the right in order to like meet the voters in the middle. No, that's not how that works. But let's go ahead and continue.
What do you think?
I agree. I was a victim of it. I mean, they lost that battle a couple of years ago. I remember a couple of years ago when Governor Greg Abbott and Governor Ron DeSantis were putting, you know, the migrants on buses and planes and sending them to so-called sanctuary cities. And then, you know, soon as they got there, those so-called sanctuary cities, they weren't so sanctimonious, were they? They were literally saying, hey, no, send them back. You can't come. And I said back then, I thought that was.
So once again, I don't know if he knows what a sanctuary city is, but it doesn't mean like we're going to take care of illegal immigrants. Like that it's not like we have like a special place, because Colorado, Denver is considered a sanctuary city. So I looked this up. We don't have a special shelter or a special area for illegal immigrants, and we're just taking them all over, you know, from all over the world. Like, once again, that's not how that works. Let me break this down to you. A sanctuary city is a city that limits its cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. These cities often adopt policies to protect undocumented immigrants from deportation by not inquiring about immigration status or by refusing to detain individuals solely for immigration violations unless required by law. So once again, just to dumb it down for you, it's not doing the ICE's job or the immigration enforcement's job for them. That's pretty much what that means. It doesn't mean we're going to give them free housing, give them free food, and just give them the life while Americans in that city are just starving and have nothing. Like no, that's not how that works. But of course, the Republicans are going to frame it that way. But if you don't know what that means, if you don't know what a sanctuary city means, you're going to be like this, be like, yeah, you know, they weren't so sanctimonious like, no, Charlemagne, hey, buddy, do better. Please do better.
Evil genius. Yes, it was inhumane and cruel to do that, but on the flip side, you did say you were sanctuary cities, and you did say you wanted these people until you got them. And so then when they realized it was an issue and they were saying don't come, it made the Republicans look like they had it right the whole time. I remember earlier this year, January, I was doing exactly what you just did, Anna. I was talking to my activist friends in Chicago, like my homie Zoe, and she was going to city council meetings every week, complaining about what was happening. And it wasn't even just about the fact that, the migrants were coming over, that she was just complaining that they're getting more resources than we are. I had a guy, he works in a parking garage in New York. He saw me one day and he came to me in tears, talking to me about how, there were gangs that were coming over, tearing up his neighborhood. And he was saying he knows it's because the border needs to be closed. This is a black woman I'm talking about and a Spanish man. These people were not MAGA in any way, shape, or form. They were just talking to people about what was going on in their communities. In New York City, Mayor Adams let a bunch of migrants stay in a school overnight and made the kids that went to the school do homeschooling that day because he needed to give the migrants housing for the night. People were calling into the radio station complaining about that. So when I get on the air and I say that, or if I'm in an interview with, I think at the time I was doing an interview with Fox News, and they asked me a simple question: do I think the border is going to play an issue come November? I told them everything I just told y'all. Next thing I know, MSNBC has a headline that says Charlamagne the God is spreading MAGA messaging. That is not MAGA messaging, and that is the Democrats dismissing what their base was actually telling them, because they already had labeled the issue of the border a Republican MAGA issue, and it wasn't. It was an American issue.
So first off, I don't recall any Democratic leader saying the border is a Republican issue. Once again, if that was said, show me where Harris or Joe Biden or someone of some importance said that. The Republicans made that their issue and said the Democratic Party is not fixing the issue. That's the messaging that was happening. Once again, we have such a short-term memory when it comes to this. And I have a bad memory myself. And if I can remember this, I know you should be remembering this. So once again, we need to make sure that we have our facts straight so we can engage in these conversations a lot better. And if you're going to Fox News, you need to make sure that your messaging is on point, or they're going to use your own words against you. Once again, if you're saying that the Democratic Party is not doing something, even though that's contrary to history, because during Biden's administration, they actually tried to pass something to fix or at least get close to a solution for the border issue, and the Republicans helped build it and then they declined it. How does that work? But all of a sudden, now we're saying the Democratic Party didn't want to fix it, but yet they're saying that this is a Republican issue. No, Charlamagne, once again, slow down, buddy. Hey, take a deep breath and remember some shit, because that is infactually, like that is not factual. I don't know what I just said, but it's not factual, all right?
And it was people in their party, people in their base, or used to be in their base, complaining about it, and they didn't listen.
So I have to just follow up real quick on what the gentleman told you about what he's experiencing in his local community. So he says that his community is being torn apart by gangs coming in. Was he credible? Because we've covered similar stories, because I think it's important to give these local communities a voice, and more importantly, allow for the Democratic Party to realize what they're getting wrong, to maybe, recalibrate. But when we covered that story, left-wing shows like Majority Report, for instance, said that that's not true. It's completely debunked.
Okay, so and when you listen, and maybe it's just me, let me know in the comments, but just hearing that, does it feel like she's just trying to craft an argument just to throw the Majority Report and Sam Cedar under the bus, just for the hell of it? Because I watch them every single day. I don't recall them saying that gangs, illegal immigrants that are in gangs are no problem at all. I don't think anyone has ever said there's no issue when it comes to illegal immigrants. But if looking statistically, when it comes to crimes from illegal immigrants, it's extremely low, especially compared to born citizens' crime rates. So once again, it just feels like that was a little disingenuous of what she said, just trying to throw him under the bus for whatever reason. But let's go ahead and continue.
Those, like Majority Report, for instance, said that that's not true. It's completely debunked. There is no problem with migrant gangs coming in. So did you find the individual that was speaking to you credible, or do you think he was just making it up or bought into right-wing hysteria?
He was completely credible. I see him all the time now. Not only was he credible, he wanted me to come with him, to his community. Not only was he credible.
Yeah, okay, we get it. Once again, I kind of need to see some proof. Once again, when it comes to Trump and everything that he's been crying about, especially when it comes to Springfield, he even came to Colorado, Aurora, and said that there were Venezuelan gangs taking over the entire city. Once again, I've been living in Aurora my entire life. There is no Venezuelan gangs taking over this city. It's over 300,000 people here in Aurora alone. We're not going to let 15 dudes take over an entire city. That's not how that works. I'm sorry, but once again, if you make something bigger than what it is, and people don't have the resources or the time to look into it to see if it's credible, then you're going to believe it. Then you're going to be like, oh, did such and such, say that is true? Yeah, he said it was true. That's exactly what happened in Springfield. Oh, yeah, the Haitians are, eating the cats and dogs. And supposedly they had firsthand proof of people witnessing this. But when it came down to it, they heard it from somebody who heard it from someone who heard it from someone. That's not credible proof. But once again, if you don't look into it, you're never gonna know.
Anyways, that's a long setup too. So now that Trump is in office, and the brother likes being popular, right? So there are some potential significant downsides of Trump administration, and maybe some potential upsides, right? Because of that thirst to be popular and maybe fix the things that got him elected, the economy, the border, et cetera. So what is the thing that you think might be a surprising upside of the Trump administration? And what is the thing you're most worried about with the Trump administration?
Okay, so after I heard
There's a few things that I think.
Hold on. He scared me, but after I heard his question, I was thinking like, that's a pretty dumbass question. Like, if we know Trump from the past 4 years, and even when he was president for 4 years, like, when has he ever done anything to like prove people wrong in a good way? He hasn't done that. So, I mean, why would we think differently now? But let's go ahead and hear his answer.
A few things that could be upsides. Number one, he could want to just prove all his political opponents wrong. So for, everybody that was out there, including myself, who were calling him a fascist and, an authoritarian. And, we weren't saying these things for no reason. We were saying these things because of the things that were coming out of his mouth. But he may want to just prove everybody wrong. And I mean, he's in a position right now where he's got control of, all the branches of government. We know the Supreme Court is his, right? And you play around, Alito and Thomas will probably retire. Sotomayor is doing the typical Democrat thing and being stubborn and not moving. So he'll probably end up getting to add another, Supreme Court justice. But that's a lot of power, right? So when you have all of that power, your people are expecting you to govern. And I mean, we haven't seen Republicans, govern for the people. In my lifetime, I can't even think if ever, right? So I think that, we could be in a situation where 18 months after, inauguration, if he implements those tariffs, the prices of goods could be sold through the roof, that everybody that went out there and voted for him on the economy, they're going to be pissed off at him. And
okay, so once again, when has Trump demonstrated that he sees millions of Americans saying that he's a fascist, saying that he's an idiot, saying that he's racist? When has he ever seen that and said, you know what, I am going to rise above that and I'm going to show all these people that they're wrong? No. we've been calling him names from A to Z for the past 4 years, and when he gets inaugurated, he starts setting up his cabinet with a bunch of weirdos. That shows me he doesn't give a damn of what you say. Charlemagne, he does not care. When he sat there and said that he's going to give reparations to white people who were victims of DEI, he does he care? No, he doesn't. When he's still saying he's going to send everybody, no matter if you're illegal criminal or not, he's sending your ass out of this country. It doesn't matter. Once again, people are not trusting on who he is, and people are gonna find out. So that's just weird.
And they're gonna flip on him. But the reality is, are the Democrats in position to even recover that fumble that could happen? Because I mean, that's the biggest downside I see. The biggest downside I see is that so many people went out there and voted for, the economy, and he may not deliver on that. Just because if you look at what any economist says, those tariffs are going to be terrible.
Okay, once again, he is not going to deliver on that. Once again, he has no policies. Tariffs is not a policy. It's just an action. That's not a to Z policy plan. I want to know a plan, but unfortunately it's too late. And when it comes to Democrats having these conversations, if they somehow feel like they are in the wrong for having the positions that they have, and then they're looking at the right like, oh, we need to kind of adopt some of those kind of ideologies or some of those talking points, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're only going to alienate people who actually need help, because the Republican Party don't care about helping people. So why would you take from their playbook? No. Once again, misinformation and making sure we're having the right leader to lead the Democratic Party. Everything else is going to fall in place. But once again, that could be a whole different conversation. So once again, if you guys agree or disagree with anything that I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below, or hit that Discord button so me and you can have that one-on-one talk. And like always, let's have that conversation.